Baby Yoda stole everyone's heart during season 1 of The Mandalorian, but the revelation that Moff Gideon wields the Darksaber is what had everyone talking during the season 1 finale. Even though Moff Gideon is in possession of the Darksaber, there's a new Star Wars theory claiming that Luke Skywalker is the rightful owner of the Darksaber. What's up, Star Wars fans? My name is Prince and I am an urban acolyte. In this video, I'm going to break down the latest Mandalorian theory that claims that the Darksaber belongs to Luke Skywalker. Now, this theory started out as a Reddit post, but it was soon picked up by sites like Screen Rant and Inverse.com. I knew things had gotten out of hand when I saw that We Got This Covered, or We Got This Clickbait as I call it, was running with this story too. So you guys know how I do. I'm going to explain the theory and then I'll give my thoughts, or, well, if you're new here, you probably didn't know that. But hey, new person on my channel, this is Star Wars Discussions for Grown-Ups. I like to debunk theories circulating in the fandom, and I try to use that as a method to teach folks about Star Wars. So this theory about Luke Skywalker being the rightful owner of the Darksaber comes to us from Impulsive Bettle on the Star Wars Theory subreddit. Impulsive Bettle says, "This is less a theory and more just an observation, but since the Darksaber is passed down via inheritance or through killing another one in a duel, then eventually that means it belongs to Luke. Pre Viszla got it because it was passed down from his ancestors, and Maul got it from slaying Pre Viszla. So that means since Obi-Wan slayed and killed Maul in Rebels, then it is technically his. Darth Vader then killed Obi-Wan in a duel, making him the rightful owner. Since Darth Vader wasn't killed in a duel and technically died on his own by taking off his mask, then that means that the Darksaber passed down to his son Luke. This makes Luke Skywalker the rightful owner and heir to the Darksaber." I'm actually surprised at the number of people who agree with this theory and say that the Darksaber should be in Luke Skywalker's possession. The thing is, everyone seems to be overlooking a few details. So the articles on Screen Rant and Inverse attempted to elaborate on this theory as they claim that Sabine Wren broke the process of succession for the Darksaber. But what do you all think? Did Sabine break the chain of possession for the Darksaber? Let's break this down. So in Season 3 of Star Wars Rebels, Maul called Ezra to Dathomir so that he could eventually locate Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine. And it's interesting because, according to the theory, that's when Obi-Wan becomes the inheritor of the Darksaber. That didn't happen because after Maul left Ezra on Dathomir, Sabine Wren found the Darksaber. Sabine gave the Darksaber to Kanan Jarrus for safekeeping, and that's when we learned the history of the Darksaber. It was a weapon created by Pre Viszla, the first Mandalorian to be inducted into the Jedi Order. This happened during the time of an older republic that may have existed before Darth Bane's Order of the Sith was established. The lightsaber was stored in the Jedi Temple after Pre Viszla became one with the Force, and it remained there until members of House Viszla snuck into the temple and stole the Darksaber. The saber was used to unite houses of Mandalore, and House Viszla also used it to strike down anyone who would oppose their rule. If you're a regular here, remember how I've been speculating that the Mandalorian series is going to be like Game of Thrones set in Star Wars? Think of House Viszla as like House Targaryen, and the Darksaber is like their dragon. The Darksaber actually functions as Excalibur for Mandalorian culture. Outside of Mandalore, it's just another lightsaber that doesn't hold any special meaning for anyone else. Maul kept the Darksaber as a memento of the time he held power on Mandalore, but it had no other meaning to him. Obi-Wan defeated Maul on Tatooine, but what meaning would the Darksaber have held for Obi-Wan Kenobi? It would have been a reminder of his lost love, Duchess Satine Kryze, who was killed by Maul on Mandalore. Honestly, I feel like by this time the Obi-Wan on Tatooine had transcended those old desires. His sole focus was to protect Luke and to embrace the mystical side of the Force by deepening his training with Qui-Gon Jinn. The same goes for Vader, who struck down Obi-Wan. We don't know exactly how long the Mandalorian Civil War lasted, at this time at least, but Vader would have had no interest or desire to get involved in the affairs on Mandalore. We can say the same for Luke Skywalker. The Darksaber may have begun as a Mandalorian Jedi's weapon, but it was basically an antique sitting in the Jedi archives collecting dust. The Darksaber actually meant something to the Mandalorians. It was viewed as a symbol to unite the houses of Mandalore, and showed that its wielder was the rightful ruler. What did Luke, Anakin, or Obi-Wan have to do with the story on Mandalore? Nothing, which is why Sabine was the legitimate owner. And this is what everyone who agrees with the theory that it belongs to Luke seems to overlook. Ursa Wren, Sabine's mother, told Sabine that she did not come into possession of the Darksaber through legitimate means. She did not slay Maul in combat, he basically dropped it, and she found it. Just a side note, that's also how Maz Kanata came into possession of Luke Skywalker's lightsaber that eventually found its way to Rey. I talked about it in a video 3 years ago. Check it out if you haven't seen it. So Ursa took the Darksaber from Sabine and she gave it to Gar Saxon, believing that she could clear her daughter's name as a traitor to both Mandalore and the Empire. Now Gar Saxon was a member of Death Watch who was loyal to Maul. When the Empire came in and established itself, Gar Saxon was named the Emperor's Hand and the Imperial Governor to Mandalore. If the Darksaber was the ceremonial weapon of Mandalore's ruler, then Gar Saxon actually would have been the rightful owner. Sabine faced Saxon in combat and she defeated him. She forced him to yield and refused to take his life. Saxon was gunned down by Sabine's mother, Ursa Wren, when Saxon attempted to shoot Sabine in the back as she walked away from him. At the news of Saxon's defeat, Mandalore was sent into chaos, and Sabine led House Wren and the clans loyal to her house against House Saxon and the other Mandalorian houses loyal to the Empire in the Civil War. Now, those who were loyal to House Kryze viewed Bo-Katan Kryze as the rightful ruler to Mandalore, and she was given the Darksaber by Sabine Wren. So I need to remind everyone, the Darksaber was viewed as a ceremonial weapon used to unite the houses of Mandalore. How did it come into their possession? Well, they stole it from the Jedi. It's in the history of the Darksaber to be stolen and used for purposes of uniting Mandalore. Remember why I said it's literally Excalibur for the Mandalorians? Sabine defeated the person who could have made a legitimate claim to the weapon, and then she gave it to the person who was viewed as the people's champion in Bo-Katan Kryze. So why would Luke Skywalker be the legitimate owner of the Darksaber? Luke has his own story. Uniting Mandalore is not part of his journey. Why didn't Sabine keep the Darksaber if she actually earned it? Starting the Mandalorian Civil War and freeing her father from imprisonment was part of her personal arc, but her journey during the Galactic Civil War was to stay on Lothal to keep things safe for Ezra Bridger. What Sabine's arc will be moving forward? Well, we'll just have to wait and see when the sequel to Star Wars Rebels returns. But could it involve the ongoing story with the Darksaber and Din Djarin's involvement with Mandalore? I'm not sure. Like I said, we'll just have to wait and see what the future holds. For now, the only thing we know is that the Mandalorian Civil War took a turn for the worst if we were to go by what we've seen in Season 1 of The Mandalorian. Mandalorians have all been driven underground, and their culture appears to be near extinction. Moff Gideon, an ISB agent on Mandalore, wields the Darksaber, and he's basically a warlord in a sector of the outer regions that has been ignored by the New Republic under Mon Mothma. From the little we know about Luke Skywalker during this time, he's off exploring the galaxy looking for traces of the Jedi's history and other Force sensitives who follow other religions and philosophical views about the Force. His story has nothing to do with the restoration of Mandalore because he will eventually attempt to restore the Jedi. So it might be cool to think about Luke having the Darksaber, or Luke taking on Baby Yoda as a student to teach him how to use the Darksaber as a Force-sensitive Mandalorian warrior. But Luke is not part of this story. The same way Obi-Wan Kenobi told Ezra Bridger that he was not part of the story relating to Obi-Wan, Luke, and Anakin Skywalker. I know I said this about the sequel saga, but everyone and everything in the galaxy does not have to be related. Look, Rey was always going to be a Skywalker by the end, but she was not always going to be a Palpatine. What this means is she was always meant to be the torchbearer to carry the Skywalker legacy forward by fulfilling the prophecy of the Chosen One. That's her story. It's her path. The Darksaber in the future of Mandalore is someone else's story and someone else's path. It's not about Luke, Anakin, or Obi-Wan. Because if you guys really want to go that route, if y'all really want to take it there, then think about this. Luke became one with the Force after confronting his nephew there on Crate. If you say that Kylo Ren defeated Luke, then Kylo Ren then becomes the heir to the Darksaber. Does that sound cool? Well, Kylo Ren was defeated by Rey twice. He eventually turned to the light, and then he willingly gave up his life for Rey to live and carry the Jedi and his family's legacy forward. That means that the Darksaber belonged to Luke, it now belongs to Rey Skywalker. Are you okay with that? I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with it because I actually like Rey. I think she's one of the most powerful Jedi that we've seen to date. Actually, I think Rey's more powerful than Anakin and Yoda too. I'm going to tell y'all why in a future video, so be on the lookout for that one. But as for the Darksaber, I'm good with it where it is. Instead of talking about how Luke should have had it, why not figure out why Moff Gideon has it? How did he get it? Did he steal it? Did he win it? What happened to Bo-Katan Kryze, and how did the Empire really crush Mandalore and steal all of their Beskar? That's the kind of stuff that I want to know. And you know what else? We have this dude running around with the Darksaber and looking for Baby Yoda. What does he know about the child, and what does he know about the Force? Like, I can see a very interesting story around Moff Gideon that reminds me of a character in a really bad Legends book, and I have some thoughts about him. So I'm going to leave you guys with this question that I plan to pick up in a future video. Do you think Moff Gideon is Force sensitive? I can see people saying that if he was, Palpatine would have made him an Inquisitor. But the Inquisitors were former Jedi. There was a special academy on Arcanus where Imperial Academy students were to be trained as Inquisitors. But y'all gotta look at Moff Gideon's age. He would not have been a cadet at any point during the Empire. He was likely already serving in the military in some form or fashion, and just because you're Force sensitive, it doesn't mean you automatically became a Jedi or anything else. Anyway, I think it would add something to Moff Gideon's character if he were Force sensitive, and I would like to hear from you guys on that topic. So let me know your thoughts regarding Moff Gideon being Force sensitive in the comments below, and I'll be checking back to see what you all have to say. Before I head out, I just want to say thanks for everyone who came through and saw the video where I debunked that rumor about Disney telling Lucasfilm to use the World Between Worlds to retcon the sequel trilogy. I'm actually working on a follow-up to that video because I have some more to say on the topic that didn't make it into the first video. I also teased about 2 other videos in this one about Moff Gideon and Rey. So while you wait on those videos, be sure to check out my response to Randy Overlord's made-up rumor about the retcon, or you can check out this other video about why Boba Fett is going to be a big part of The Mandalorian. But anyway, that's all I got for this one, so thanks for watching. Y'all keep on breathing, and may the force of others be with you. Always.